Clear!
Back in 1997, my dad and one of his good friends went on an Alaskan float hunt. When looking through those pictures and hearing those stories, I knew that someday I wanted to experience a trip like that. After talking about it for over a decade and doing years of research and months of gear prep, the time had finally come. We booked a hunt with the transporter Willow Air. The particular trip we picked, the extreme float as they called it, was longer than other float hunts they offer, and has the potential to run into low or high water obstacles. It is especially remote and offers a very high success rate of over 80%. They stress that for this trip, you need to be in good physical shape and willing to work hard. Sounds great, let's do it. A 112-mile-long river float trip in Alaska's remote southwest interior during late September. 14 days. After being dropped off, it was just Dad and I. We were on our own. To be picked up, we must make it to the end. Until then, we float, we hunt, we camp, and we move camp. We were well aware ahead of time that this would be a demanding trip, that even under normal circumstances, this trip would not be for the faint of heart. Little did we know was that unplanned circumstances would make this adventure an even more arduous task. Days after we were dropped off, Dad and I both started experiencing symptoms of an illness: weakness, dizziness, chills, and burning chest and a cough. These worsened over the next several days, and this, combined with the persistent rainy and cold conditions, dealt us a serious situation in a land where weakness is often not permitted. But despite some hardships, there were many rewards. To get there, we flew from Minneapolis to Seattle. And from Seattle to Anchorage. We finally made it to Alaska, but there was little time to soak it all in, as our charter flight to McGrath was set to leave in 2 hours. So we move our gear, grab a quick bite to eat, before we head on over to Regal Air.
And you got a lot of bags, Corey.
Now it's time to board our third plane for the day, so we can make our 220-mile flight to McGrath. arriving in McGrath. It was time to try to get a good night's sleep, because tomorrow was the day we started our 112-mile river float. All right, it's the morning we leave for the float. We're at Hotel McGrath, and it's already sprinkling. We've been up for the past 2.5 hours organizing bags. All right, we're getting ready for a boat ride. Some other boats sitting here. Got a moose in that one. But they're taking us out on this boat there. Good. So we'll be out of the rain. That's cool. All right, we just finished up our boat ride down the Kuskokwim River. Ready to hop in the pickup truck for a 40-mile ride now on a logging or mining road. Oh yeah, here's our truck. The S10. 40 miles on a greasy road right here.
Don't capture my spirit in there. I'm wanted by the FBI. This is the Yankee Creek Gold Mine Road here. You go up and go over the mountains and you can drop down into Gaines Creek Camp and Yankee Creek Camp. Long ways out of the way. Gold mining country now. There'll be an old burnt down dredge off in the ditch up here at Little Creek. Those are the ones that knock your bags off the top of the load right there. Here yesterday. Oh, Doug did when he home. Oh, we made it.
And after a 4-hour truck ride, we've arrived at our drop-off point. It's time to start the float. We pump up the raft, strap on the oar locks, check all the valves, and set off down the river. And not but a mile or two downstream, we see a set of big moose tracks. Time to check it out. The tracks were fresh. Dad did some calling, but no sign of any moose. Time to move on. With only an hour and a half left of daylight, it was time to find a suitable campsite. But with the high water, the choices of sandbars was pretty slim. But luckily, we found a decent spot. Time for camp night 1. After we break down camp, it's time to set out on day 2 of the float. A few miles downstream, we see a clear water tributary. Perfect spot to filter water. Might as well cook up some lunch, too. After doing some calling and some glassing, no sign of any bulls. Except a couple miles downstream, we happen to see a bull on the edge of the river corridor. Luckily, we were able to beach our raft on the opposite side of the island and walk around the front part of that island to get a good look at him.
On the other side of this island. We were able to get tucked away in the bank quick and tie up. Should be right around this corner. It's a bull. It's not big enough. Wow. Sublegal, but still really cool. He sure wanted to come over here, but I think he saw me. He's probably out there about 50, 60 yards.
Under 50 inches. Still really cool to see. But onward we go. We spot a cow on the bank, hoping there's a bull nearby. Who's this guy? Despite the on and off drizzle all day long, it's been a peaceful ride so far. We see some tracks on the sandbar. Time to get to the edge of the clearing and do some calling.
Man, a lot of tracks.
We're seeing lots of tracks, lots of moose signs. Time to head down to the next calling spot. Here I anchor up to the bank, while Dad climbs up top to do some calling. No luck here. Time to travel on downriver and find a suitable spot for Camp 2. Alright, just waking up from our second night of camping. We're on the tail end here, downstream end of a little island. It's kind of a cool spot. A little flat spot right there. Kind of foggy this morning. The beavers walking around the tent all night long, making noises. There's beaver activity everywhere. Time to start breaking down camp. Head out again. Got the phone charging there on the battery bank. Gonna cook up a little broccoli. Get our morning greens in. I never got Dad to eat a piece of broccoli the entire trip. Look at how thick some of this stuff is. This is just right along the sandbar. That's what it's like a lot. Along a good percentage of the riverbank. Thick willows. Moose truck. Littler one. See anything over there?
No. Couldn't get high enough in the willows. They would block me out. It's so thick.
Time to shove off. Head downriver and find the next calling spot. Alright, I had to bank it quick. Dad jumped out, he's gonna tie us up. We gotta go check out this area over here. Alright, you can tie us up, huh? Time to go see what's over the hill. There's a good oxbow over there with some open areas. Might do some calling. No sign of any bulls. With only a couple hours of daylight, it's time to head downstream and find a suitable spot for Camp 3. Despite the on and off drizzle all day long, we've been enjoying the peace and quiet of the river float. But along with that serenity, there was something else on my mind. I began to notice the onset of some unwanted symptoms that have gradually gotten worse throughout the day. Dizziness, coughing, weakness, and chills. It's time to get some rest and hope for improvement in the morning. After intermittent sleep, we wake up for the beginning of day 4. Our status is not good. Dad also has chills, weakness, and extreme fatigue. We spend the entire day in our sleeping bags, listening to the rain hit the tent and the wind gusts push their way through the forested landscape. I remember having weird dreams, and odd memories from decades ago would pop into my thoughts as I drift in and out of sleep. I was shivering, even though a warm feeling would wash over me. Was this delirium from high fever or from hypothermia? Confusion as to whether I was hot or cold, along with my hands and feet going numb, were all alarming signs. Meanwhile, the rain continues, the waters rise. Conditions are aligning to create one of the most powerful elements of this trip, a struggle with weakness from illness that would lead me on more than several occasions to the brink of unconsciousness, where the outcome was unknown. With the rising waters, we needed to move camp to higher ground. In our weakened state, we barely were able to complete this task. I would stand until I couldn't. With eyes wide open, darkness would creep in. Ambient sounds fade away to intense ringing. If remained standing, I know I would pass out and fall, so I would quickly get down on all fours to gather strength and prep for another minute of work. Extremities were numb and slow to function. Being in this state, with the wind battering our halfway dismantled tent, I held onto it as our life depended on it. If I were to let go of the tent, the wind would send it to the river only 15 yards away within seconds. With the cold rain pouring down, the windy storm at its peak, and daylight fading, all happening simultaneously when I am at the weakest I've ever been, I thought, this has to be a bad dream. How can this be happening? Shivering and on all fours, I prayed out loud for the strength to be able to set this tent up on higher ground. If we could not do this quickly, we would not last long, being this weak and exposed to the rain, wind, and cold. The unknown was just as mentally torturous as the physical hardship was. Dad was in equally rough shape. In between rests, we walked when we could, over to the raft and paddled to the bank, with a partially assembled tent between us. We climbed up the bank. Dad had to handsaw some small trees and brush to set the tent up, as everywhere was thick with brush and trees. It literally took all I had to help set the tent up, set up the cot, and crawl into my sleeping bag. We were in a critical state of the unknown. I grappled with the thought that if our condition worsens, even just slightly, we very likely would not be able to make it out of here without a rescue. But if we were able to slowly recover, we could prevail. I prayed for the latter before I closed my eyes to sleep. We wake up. Day 5. I am in slightly better condition. I slowly walk out of the tent to start the day and check the condition of our gear. I remember I stumbled backwards a few steps as I almost passed out and had to crawl back to the tent. Despite having zero appetite, I forced myself to eat some food and drink water. After that, I felt I could then get on my feet and continue. As we slowly packed up the raft, we knew what we needed to do. It was imperative that we find this BLM safety cabin that the locals spoke of prior to our float. I recalled the info that our driver had mentioned regarding this cabin. He could not pinpoint its exact location on my map when I had asked him, but he did mention one critical item. He said that this cabin is located where the Iditarod Trail crosses our river for the third time. With that information, and by using my Trails layer on my Onyx Hunt app on my phone, we were able to view the Iditarod Trail to find that third crossing area, and miraculously locate the cabin, even though it was not visible from the river. This cabin is listed as winter access only on the BLM website, as it is positioned off the main channel of the river. However, the high water was a blessing in disguise as far as accessing this cabin. We were able to utilize a flooded oxbow to bring our raft and gear within 50 yards of the cabin. Without this flooded oxbow, accessing from the river would have meant carrying gear hundreds of yards through willow-choked and soggy terrain, a feat that may not have been possible in our weakened state. Yeah.
Here, that's what you use. Take it apart. There's a hatchet, we can put them right back in. The safety cabin. That's what we use.
We pried off the plywood nailed over the door and walked in. We see a wood burner and a stack of dry firewood inside. This is exactly what we needed. We spend the next 3 days here resting and recovering. We were still weak and moving slow. On several occasions, while just sitting on the steps filtering water, I would suddenly get lightheaded, so I had to quickly lay on my cot before I would pass out. It was shortly after that. We slept for 16 hours one day. For 3 days, I had nothing but time and my thoughts. It was mentally tough, as I thought about my family back home and the predicament we were in. But the fact that we had this shelter and warmth, and that our condition was improving, was what got me through in good spirits. This cabin is one of 10 structures that was built and maintained by the BLM. They are situated along the Iditarod Trail. They are backcountry safety cabins. Each is equipped with a bunk, a wood stove, and an outhouse. The Carlson Crossing safety cabin is located on the northern, even year route between Ophir and Cripple. Finding this cabin was pivotal in our recovery. I don't want to imagine what would have happened had we not found it. After 3 days, it was time to pack up and head out. But first, we left a short entry in the journal book that's kept at the cabin. We boarded up the door again and set out. It is now day 8, and we were still weak, but multitudes better than we were on day or night 4. The rain finally subsided. Things were looking up. So we decided to continue on downriver. We shoved off. I couldn't stop thinking about what just happened. What sickness did or do we have? Due to a series of unfortunate events, followed by a series of miraculous events. We may have just cheated death. It was a lot to process, but I remained in good spirits as we continued our adventure. Only a few miles downstream from the cabin, we crossed paths with a large bull moose. As we were floating, we heard it grunt to our left from within the willows of an island. By the time we stopped the raft 20 seconds later at the downstream tip of the island, the moose was already running upstream on the opposite side of the river, roughly 200 yards away, and soon to disappear into the bush. With little time to spare, just as I was stopping the raft with the paddle, Dad positioned and got off his shot.
Shoot him again.
The footage is terrible, but I was lucky to even get any with how quickly things happened. He was certain the shots were well placed. But the animal disappeared into the bush, and Dad couldn't help but be shaken and nervous about the outcome. It was time to pull the raft upstream to where we last saw him.
We're looking downstream. This edge is what we've been pulling the raft upstream against the whole way. We're just taking a much needed rest here. It's too deep to walk out there, so we had to hug the shoreline and pass the rope on the outside of all the willows as we do it, while Dad pushes outward on the raft with the oar. But the moose is down right over there. So we're trying to get upstream as much as we can so we can shoot across, and hopefully by the time we end up over there, we're right there, because this water's moving 4 to 5 to 6 miles an hour. Okay, you ready? I'm just gonna hop in, huh? No, I want to go backwards. Am I stopping at this island?
Stop, but if it starts flipping around, just keep going. Otherwise, by the time you get going again, you're going down there.
Yep.
You gotta get back there.
Alrighty, I'm just gonna shoot for it.
I don't think that you're gonna have to. Upstream. Good job. Good job, man. Keep going.
Get ready to grab.
Yep. We just need to go straight across to here.
Yeah.
Good job. I didn't think we could ever make that. Right back there to be just fine.
As I try to catch my breath, we are both overcome with anticipation and nervousness about what we will find. As we were pulling the raft upstream and I looked across the river into the brush where he disappeared into, I was almost certain I saw a paddle and tines from one antler sticking above the grass. I used binos to confirm, but I was shaking so much I couldn't hold them steady enough, so I couldn't be for sure. Will the animal be down? And if so, how far had it gone?
Thankfully, this looks like a little higher ground in here.
How do I get out of here?
Get your tape.
Don't even bring it up, man.
Hold on, let's get a drink. Should get drinks first.
I can only imagine what's going through Dad's mind right now, as we are only a few yards away from where we think he may be down.
I see points.
Yeah.
He's right ahead of you.
Oh my God, look at the brows. Oh my Lord. Thank you. He's more than I expected. Oh, he's beautiful.
He did it.
Oh, he's got 4 on each side, Matt. He's gorgeous. Look at that, Matt. Holy smokes. What an animal. He's everything I dreamed of being. Oh my. Look at that animal.
That's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking for. Look at that.
4x4, huh?
5.
I could count that a 5.
He's 5.
Oh,
Wow.
hell yeah.
Hell yes. Look at the points. And like you said, Matt, when they start rounding off up here,
Yeah.
that's when they're big.
So there's where, at the downstream tip of that island right there, is where we shot him from. Probably a couple 100 yards. And he was right over there. You can tell he stood right here for a while, a little bit, and bled out. Lots of blood. Dad just put the tape on him. He broke the 60-inch mark, if you believe it or not. Holy cow.
Awesome, Matt. Wasn't expecting that at all. Matt said, shoot him. And I said, is he legal? And because I couldn't tell, everything's happening so quickly, and he turned around and was running away. Oh my. And I cannot believe this is just what I was looking for.
So it's got 4 brows on one side and 5 on the other. It's a hell of an animal.
Whoa. It's been a hell of a trip.
Up on high, dry ground. Only 30, 40 yards from a raft. Awesome.
massive bull had a 62-inch antler spread and 4x5 brow tines. After we gather our thoughts and take some pictures, it's time for the serious work to begin. We were moving slow. What should have taken a day took us 2. Even before we encountered this moose, we were still in recovery mode. But now, after dressing the huge animal and loading the meat on the raft, we were completely gassed. We tapped into energy reserves that were already almost on empty. Regardless, we were ecstatic with the last 2 days' events. So after gorging ourselves on some of the best tasting game I've ever eaten in my life, we settled in for a night's sleep. On the morning of day 10, we set out in the near freezing temperatures to cover some river miles.
All right, it's day 10. Dad's freezing his butt off back there.
We had 70 miles of river between us and the pickup point.
We just floated 75 miles in 2 days.
That's a lot.
Yep, now we're within a half mile of the extraction point.
Yeah, it's been something else. Real tough.
After 10 nights and 7 different sleeping locations, we just floated 112 river miles through remote Alaskan landscape. It was so cool to see the change in both the terrain and the river throughout our travels. Starting out in the headwaters, where the river was swift and narrow with hazardous obstacles and only 30 yards wide, to nearing the end where the river was slow moving with wide bends and nearly 130 yards wide. After arriving at the pickup point, we offload the meat, hang it up out of the rain, set up the final camp, and wait for fair weather so the float plane can come and get us. After leaving the moose kill site, we floated the remaining 70 miles in just 2 days. We floated 10 hours straight, both days. Given my condition and complete lack of energy, I told myself I would not shoot a moose even if I had the opportunity. We simply wouldn't have had the strength to process another animal and also get ourselves downriver. It was a choice between one or the other. It took all we had just to reach the endpoint as it was. Given the number of animals we were seeing, we both believe I would have likely been able to harvest a bull had we been healthy and hunted during those last 2 days of our float. The whole trip I never even broke out my fishing gear. There was just no energy for anything extra. Upon reaching the end pickup point, we had to wait 2 days until the weather was fair enough for the float plane to come get us. It was now time to head back to McGrath.
It's time to roll out of here. Put the meat all down. We're gonna get on this beast. This big plane. Got our meat and all our gear and us all in one shot. It's awesome. Yeah, your stuff.
That is it.
You got all your stuff there.
Fucking determined if I want to go down river and put some shit. Look back.
We're good to go.
Wash your boots off.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
Just watch your head.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Grueling to the last minute.
I think it's gonna work. I feel good about it. Just a little shot of jet fuel. You guys are buckled up?
Yeah, let's go.
This trip was an experience of a lifetime that I will never forget, and to go through this with my dad made it even more memorable. If I make it to 65, I hope I can be as tough as he is. The struggle during the first part of this trip in this unforgiving landscape while dealing with this illness was the hardest thing, mentally and physically, that I've ever experienced. I can't even scratch the surface of it in this time-limited video. My body wanted to give up so badly, yet my mind wouldn't let it. With family, a wife, and young kids back home, giving up was simply not an option. We needed to keep moving and surviving. After Dad's doctor visit upon returning home, a test revealed that the illness we fought was influenza A. He also had frostbite on a toe. After leg pain and lingering fatigue brought me in for a doctor visit, I found out that I had a blood clot in my leg. Dad and I each lost over 20 pounds, and our hands and feet had partial numbness and intermittent pain. Doctor said this was all due to extreme and prolonged stress on the body during persistent cold conditions. He told us being in that tough environment on top of fighting an illness, that your body partially restricted blood flow to the extremities for multiple days to prioritize blood flow to vital organs during time of prolonged stress on the body. It took several months for the nerve pain and partial numbness in our feet to subside, and I was on medication for my blood clot for over 6 months. We were likely exposed to the virus from the commercial plane ride from Minneapolis to Alaska, and the symptoms didn't show up until we were in the bush. If we hadn't gotten sick, this would have been a night and day different trip with much less hardships. But it happened. We did get sick. And despite the hardships, it has provided a valuable experience that I respect and cherish. For without struggle, one often does not appreciate comforts. I came out of there with a new appreciation for life and all its comforts and amenities that we are blessed with this day and age. Life is good. Every day is a gift. Thanks to my family for supporting me in this endeavor. And cheers to Dad for finally fulfilling his goal of harvesting a big Alaska Yukon moose.